tonight. He's a great home inspector. One thing as investors that we do is we pre-inspect our homes prior to selling. So we fix something up, get a pre-inspection done to make sure we knock out all of those elements. If you're a real estate agent and you're trying to get your home sold, Tim is really good at communicating with people. He doesn't overstate problems, and he doesn't blow your deal out like a lot of people do. So I wanted to make that intro, and I'll let Mark get started.
Hello again on a Wednesday night. I see a lot of new faces around here. First thing I like to do, I had this thing here taped to my door for like 2 weeks. Holly has a check.
I'm getting paid.
Yeah, again.
I don't say no
more than I do around here.
I don't say no to money.
And Les gets a check.
Oh my God. The one thing I don't say no to is money.
Hello, Jake.
One thing I never say no to is money. I don't say no to jobs. I'm going to get
There you go.
I'm definitely going to get ice cream.
Part of the function of Green is, we take people to bring other people here and enjoy our education and our networking. So bring some people next time, and one of these checks will be yours. Anyway, hey, I'm Mark LaPera with Green Global Real Estate Education Network. Welcome to our classroom. We like to thank our regulars that come here and our new people. Let's quickly go around the room. Just get the. That's my ring. Let's get some of the new people here. Just go up and who are you and what do you do?
I'm Amanda Campbell, and what about you?
Wait, why are you here? You got suckered into coming here, but
I did.
what do you? You're at the table of food over there. I told last week everybody seems to be over that way when the food's here, and now this is empty. What business are you in?
Wait, real estate?
All right.
Like other than real estate?
Yeah.
That's it?
I forget real estate. What fun things do you like to do?
I don't know.
You don't know what fun
She
things.
likes to sing and dance.
I go sailing.
Yeah, I like to vote.
There you go, voting. And we have a young man over here. He's new here.
I don't know, baby.
I'm Deborah Kinder. This is my dad. Unfortunately. Listen, don't disrespect your father.
Even though it's true, we don't want to disrespect anyone.
There's a great man. He works hard for you to feed him.
Deborah. Get up anyway.
All right. Y'all see me before. I am Deborah Bishop. I am a mindset coach. That's what I do. And I'm actually speaking here on November 29th.
Back there.
I'm putting that in my phone.
Hey, I'm Matt Martin. I'm advised tonight by Tim Hicks. Thank you, Tim. Own a company called Clean Beyond. We're an infectious, non-infectious disease control company, clean air, pure air company, and we also do mold remediation.
You got the right spot. There's a lot of infectious diseases around here. You guys right now. I'm Jonathan Patterson. I'm here.
And I'm Chanel Gresham Patterson.
Just want to learn the business?
Well, of course, want to learn the business. I'm also in the process of starting a business. I have a clothing line where I make custom clothes and handbags.
Nice.
So,
Hey, I may need some shirts for my business.
There you go. Is there anybody new here that I missed? Okay. Go ahead, sir. Harold, what's up?
I'm Harold Taylor. I'm from Columbia. I'm a real estate agent. I've been attempting to sell real estate ever since 2002. I took a little break and things, couldn't get no loan.
Yeah.
So I took a little break and I'm back now and I want to learn how to do wholesale.
Well, good. We were just supposed to go down to Columbia today to buy our property, but
Just signed up tonight, too.
yeah, he just said I brought it with. Wow! I know I got something for that. Here you go. There you go. Have lunch on us.
Hey.
I already have one on my plate. What do you think? Can you sit down?
You know what? I like to eat this cookie. I wouldn't hate it.
That's it. Go eat over there.
Eat at her house.
There we go. Lloyd brings his people over here for dinner. That's what he does. Take it out to dinner. Marina's good. Anyway, two very special guests today we have. Before we bring our wonderful speaker. Oh, I asked him. He didn't put his hand up. Please get up. No, please give it.
Yeah, I'm Jason Norfleet. I do restoration services in town. I'm hungry. I'm all about this. Yeah.
Who's over there?
I ain't talking about
I
that.
need a wolf. That's what I want to hear.
He's passionate.
That's what I need. You a carpenter? You a carpenter? I need a wall in that room over there and a bookshelf. Anyway, that's what we do here. We make money. All right. Anyway, we have two very special guests. Before I can sit them up, our Director of Education, you all heard him, you all see him on the screen every once in a while. We have him live today from West Palm Beach, Florida. Let's welcome Andrea Molinari. Come on up. Thank you. He doesn't have his shepherd's outfit on.
Yeah. I'm actually headed on my way up to Grand Rapids. There's a comic book convention. Some of you know I write graphic novels along with my son, who's in the other room. And we're headed up to Grand Rapids to sell a comic book, graphic novels, and hang out with artists. People who wear superhero costumes. So, yeah, very good. So, anyway.
This is my signed copy. You guys can't have it.
There you go. And
I might have some more in his car, right?
I have a few more. What I'll do is I'll drop them by. I got to have enough to sell up the convention. It's kind of ridiculous.
No, we'll buy them.
There you go. That's it. They're for free.
I just want to say, maybe I get the advantage to do this is to introduce Tim. Tim is our first course that we've done, and I love this course. If you haven't seen this, you should see this. It's we have a course on home inspection on the website under the category of courses available. What we call jokingly refer to as our Netflix for real estate. And I really believe that home inspections, understanding the material that he passes on, is important for anybody who's going to own a home. Not just people who are selling homes and buying homes, but anybody that's ever going to own a home. You should know this stuff. You really should. I mean, you can save thousands of dollars just from the stuff that he points out in the videos that he does for us. Tim is a great presenter. He really is. I mean, he's going to be self-conscious about it, but he really is. His videos are very watchable. Paul, you've seen them.
Yeah,
they're very watchable.
Amazing, great information.
Yeah, he's a real good communicator, and he makes you feel comfortable. It's like doesn't blow it off the top of your head or anything. So I really value that, and I'm hoping to do more filming. Thank you, Tim, for joining us tonight, and I am looking forward to this since we scheduled you, but I will get to be here live. Come on up and.
Will do. I appreciate it very much. I got to put you under the gun just a little bit there. Well, guys, real quick, my name's Tim Hicks. That's who I am. Clear Inspections is my home inspection company. I've been doing inspections now for about, 50, 60 years or so. Seems like I'm teaching in advance.
What you want to do is move the.
I've got it now.
You see that on page 1. There you go.
There we go. Me and who and why I'm here. Well, that's me. I'm Tim Hicks with Clear Inspections. I've been in business for about almost 17 years, about 17 now. I've done well over 7,000 fee-paid inspections. And what I mean by fee-paid inspections is simply that somebody trusted me enough to pay me their hard-earned money to let them know what the true condition of that home was. And so that's what I mean by that type of fee-paid inspection. Also, HVAC certified years and years and years ago. I was a technician with Lee Company, a couple of other companies around town. Also managed to start my own heating and air conditioning business with another gentleman, and that's where I learned my most valuable lesson in life is that you can't be afraid to jump in with both people sometimes. You're going to get knocked down, guys. You're going to get knocked down. You just got to get back up. You got to get back up. I lost I don't know how many thousands of dollars in the business. And we had a good business. We did what we said we were going to do. But along that time, I started phasing into the home inspection business and purchased a franchise, and that's how I got rolling in that. But I wasn't paying attention, and I learned a valuable lesson. But you can't be afraid to succeed. Be prepared to get knocked down and get back up again. But with that, and then with time, of course, I garnered my mold and radon and thermal imaging certifications. I don't know a way you can be more certified to do what I do.
It's a necessary component to help people understand and realize that you know what you're talking about. But the biggest component there is experience. Nothing can be gained from not being out there and actually doing it. So that's a little bit about me and who I am, and hopefully why I'm here. What I'm going to talk on today are exterior components, with a home, kind of what you can see and look out for, some of the more costly defects that you might find with a home, or as you're looking at one to possibly invest in, or for your clients, and so on and so forth. With that being said, let's see what the next slide says. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a free gift for someone here who can answer a trivia question, and we'll do that at the end. But the trivia question is pretty simple. What is the most common and costly defect found with each and every home? We'll get to it at the end. I'll get to it at the end. We've got a lot of these covered too, but I'm looking for the most common and costly. The number one key. All right, here are some of the components I'm going to talk about today. Your footings and foundations. I'm not going to get too technical, guys, because I'm not a very technical person, believe it or not. Sometimes I feel I'm full of useless knowledge, but at the same time, I know it's very valuable too. But I'm not going to get very technical because you can get lost with that. So we're going to talk about what you can see with your own eyes and ears and smell and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about footings and foundations. We're going to talk about grading. We're going to talk about a little bit about decks, exterior walls and wall claddings. I'm going to get into a little bit about clearances that are necessary, especially at roof lines and that sort of thing. Gutter systems, gosh, that's probably one of the most important things that will negatively affect the home. If that gutter system's wrong, the water's getting in places where it doesn't need to be, and it all goes downhill from there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the roof. So with that being said, feel free to ask any questions as you have them, but also feel free to know that at the very end, I'm going to be here to answer any questions that you may have as well. And if I don't know the answer, I know Steve Chasen knows the answer, so we're in good hands. All right, common and costly defects for a roof. Now these guys, I'm keeping it simple, but I'm going to talk and expand and extrapolate, if you will, on each one of these. And I apologize about my little deal here. I wasn't sure I was going to show up. But that first picture is just, you're looking at silver edges around the roof shingle. And what that's telling you is that it's lost some granules. It's telling you that it's aged, that it's wearing out pretty fast. Usually that it's aged. Now, other factors can affect that as well, such as poor ventilation in the attic. If you don't have good airflow underneath it, the shingle is going to burn up that much faster. So as you're walking around the home and you're looking at it, look for those edges around the shingles. Also look and see if they're curling. If they're curling up, that's another age indicator and wear indicator. Gosh, that was a great one at the bottom. I apologize again, you just can't really see the spots too well. Storm damage, hail damage in particular. What you're looking for there is impact marks on the roof shingle itself. So roofs and little round, mostly round areas where it's lost granules in that impact zone. And then, of course, how spread out are those marks? Because that, without getting again technical, that's how insurance adjusters determine whether or not that roof should be replaced, is how many are in a certain square foot area, or so on and so forth. But that's what that second picture is. And the third one is something you may not think of. You may get to a home and see that was built in 2007, 2006, 2005, 2004. Those were all years where there were some pretty popular shingles being used that were defective from the time they rolled off. Generally, those are called Atlas Chalet branded shingles. And how you'll kind of know if you're looking at them is this is a true architectural shingle pattern down here. What I mean by that, this kind of looks fancier than your typical retab, generic regular shingle. Well, this one was made to kind of resemble that without being that. And what happens with it, these raised sections here in the middle that I'm pointing at here, those develop blisters. So they'll get they'll swell, all kinds of little swell marks, if you will, blisters, and they'll also, you can almost see some of the cracking along those areas. And those are just a couple of the defects that were common with those Atlas Chalet shingles. And what happens is they can break off because of that. And you Google Atlas Chalet shingles, you'll learn all you ever want to about that. But that is a defective shingle and is recommended to be replaced. They no longer manufacture those. So if you just have damage here, damage there, and you wanted to repair that, you can't do it. You can't get that shingle. So that's why replacement is recommended. That being said, you'll also see those on a lot of townhomes. A lot of townhomes in that time period were done with those Atlas chalet shingles. In a situation like that, you know, it's up to the association. So even though they're considered defective and would be best if they could be replaced, it doesn't mean that they're going to be replaced or that they even should be at that time. Those are just predicted failures of what may happen down the road. Yes, sir.
When was rolled out 2007 to what?
Well, around the mid-2000s.
And they were called.
Not long after that. That's when they started seeing it. I don't know the dates to be exact with you.
Was there settlement from the manufacturer on that?
You'll see a million attorney websites when you Google that, but not anything substantial or really, you know, that would lead to any real money back or anything that I've found out. But they are definitely defective. So there's just a few things with roof shingles. Also with the roof, things you want to look for are the little pipes that go through the roof, the drain waste vent pipes, any kind of penetration areas. They usually have some type of a flashing boot or something around that to seal to that pipe to keep the weather out, keep the rain out. Real common. The standard rubber ones wear out after about 6 to 7 years, and when they crack, they will leak. So when you go into a bathroom, it's a common area where you'll see a moisture stain on the ceiling. Well, that's because that boot around that pipe is cracked and it's leaking. Nothing wrong with the roof, but that can also lead to costly repairs inside the home too. If it's been going long enough and it got bad enough. And moving on. Gutter systems. Here we've got, again, apologize for the pictures, but that first picture is a loose gutter right at a downspout location. So what's been happening over time there is water, that's where it's all going. So the way the roofing nails wore out, and water probably got to the fascia, which is the board behind the gutter, and may have deteriorated that and helped those gutter nails come right on out. When that happens, obviously, you know, if you have any deteriorated wood behind it, that's going to need to be replaced. And then the gutter repaired or replaced as necessary. A lot of these are pretty standard and things you're going to see anyway, but just things to look out for, because when this goes south, remember earlier, when that gutter system fails, that's really going to have a negative impact potentially on the home. If it hasn't yet, it certainly will. And going back to this middle photo here, this is a great one. It talks about missing downspouts, loose downspouts. Also, those downspouts need to terminate the water far enough away from the foundation to where it's not going to have a negative impact on the foundation. And if the splash block, sometimes it'll be plastic or concrete or aggregate that you see there, isn't enough to get that water away, you can still have that negative impact. So drain extensions, which are those black corrugated pipes that you'll see sometimes buried, sometimes just laying on top of the ground. But when you see those, that is an indication that you start paying attention to your grading around the home, because you want to make sure that not only is it coming down off the gutter and the downspout, but that's then flowing away from the home. And again, all that water back against the home, the foundation, negative impacts that, and that can lead to water standing in the crawl space. That can lead to high vapor moisture. That can lead to fungal growth on your wood. It turns into mold. It turns into countless dollars later. So definitely, that's why that gutter system, that's everything on the outside of that. Rusted gutters. Obviously, with aluminum gutters, you're not really going to have that effect, but with the older galvanized style gutters, you're going to see that a lot. Real common. It's going to happen with any galvanized gutter. It's just a matter of time. So they'll rust through, and once they do, they leak, and they're no good. So they'll have to be replaced at that point. And the downspouts will do that same thing. Exterior walls and wall cladding. This is a big one. With any masonry brick home, especially here in Middle Tennessee, where we have such a hilly terrain, you're going to see. That home's going to move. It's rare that you're not going to see any indications of cracks. Again, this one, that's a problem. That's a costly problem potentially to find out what's going on. The brick's sitting on a concrete footing that's most of the time shared by a masonry block foundation. The brick itself, unless you're really in an older home, because these are wood frame homes, that brick in that picture there is not holding that home up. It's no different than this fiber cement siding in this picture here. It's there to keep the weather out and for decorative purposes, but it is not holding that home up. So not every crack that you're going to find in brick mortar is necessarily a structural problem, but they can be. When I'm in a crawl space and I see movement with a foundation and it's a brick home, I'm definitely going to make sure that same area look for cracks. Look for cracks that have been repaired as well, because just because a crack's been repaired doesn't mean that the problem has been fixed. Because the problem's likely below that brick crack with that concrete footing. But definitely, and you'll see hairline stair-step cracks that are the most common type that you'll find, and that's a judgment call. To me, to this day, I'm not a structural engineer. I have a wealth of knowledge and a lot of experience as far as determining for my client whether or not I think that that's a structural problem. But at the end of the day, I have to make a judgment call. And as investors and as people, looking for homes for your clients, you may need to do that as well. And typically, you have to be prepared later on if you're wrong. But if there's very little movement, look at your common factors associated with the home. Look at the age of the home. 20, is it 30 years old? Is it 40 years old? Is it 6 years old? That's a definite thing. Look at your grading. See what the water's doing. Look at the water from the gutter system. Look at all that, because all these clues are going to kind of build a story. They're going to work. Yes, sir.
When you say you see hairline cracks, in your report, do you write up that they should be able to get into the area?
That's a great question.
By a certified.
I might have I do about 700 inspections a year, and I might have 5 to 10 reports that recommend a structural engineer. And here's the common reason. Even that crack with that separation right there, can they go wrong with a structural engineer? No. But you're not re-engineering anything. Trust me, that crack and the fault of that crack has been repaired so many times. These foundation companies, and these structural repair companies that do that, they don't have a structural engineer looking at that. They know exactly, what's going on, where to go and where to look for, and how to fix it. So when I recommend a structural engineer, it's a pretty significant reason. I may do so. I didn't get this one in there.
Recommended license.
Oh, definitely a qualified professional, as someone qualified in that field. But
hairline?
Sure, because again, just because it's just a hairline, that's the thing, because 9 times out of 10, and even more than that, I can't see that footing. So if I can't see it, you can't see it, no one can see it except for, and that's where that trained structural specialist comes in. Because if that footing is cracked, that's where the problem's coming back to. And without me being able to know that, yes, you can certainly get a structural engineer, and you can't go wrong with that. But I'm just saying, it's not all the time necessary.
I think that the issue is you see a lot of these inspectors, just to be very clear, they automatically throw out the CYA.
Sure.
Hey, get it, because I'm pretty sure I know what this is referring to this house, man. Just under one window, there was some water damage, and it's not a structural issue. I mean, they got pictures of the house and everything, and it's like, 2 inspectors inspected it. Said, you need a structural, I'd have a structural engineer, and it seems like everything is, go to a very expensive, you get an engineering lawyer, it's going to be $1,500. Right, it's with anything. As soon as they see something wrong with the roof, anything, they need a license. It forces you to, which is fair, but I mean, that right there, I agree. You need someone who knows what they're doing, but this is like 7 bricks or something, and there was nothing under it, it wasn't going all the way to the ground.
And that's, you're right. It's unfortunate that, and I'm not going to say that they're wrong for that, because I'm just not going to say that. But each person is different in how they operate and the knowledge base that they have. So that may be what they're operating from as well. Again, you can't go wrong with that, and that's what they're doing.
It's an opinion, too. It's an opinion. Everybody's
that's what a home
also, too. And I know how homeowners are. I work with them all the time. And the thing is they'll come back on you. You didn't say this in the report. Trust me, there's a reason why they have to do that, and there's a reason why we have to fix it.
It's just that it is a professional opinion. That's my opinion. Yes, sir.
Speaking of wood framing that you mentioned, we see a lot of insulated concrete form homes.
It's becoming more popular. I'm pretty familiar with that. So my dad had one.
Right.
Gosh, that's been over 10, 12 years ago when we built his home.
Yeah.
But it's becoming more popular, and with that's more of a system type home.
Yeah.
Meaning there are different builders who provide different type, IC ups and all of that. And you have to remember that home inspection, as a home inspector, I'm a generalist. And that's why I try, and I'm definitely not going to get too technical here tonight, because I'm not going to ever overstep my bounds. If I don't know something, I'm not going to be afraid to tell you. But that being said, as a home inspector, you need to know a little bit about everything too. And we are starting to see more and more of those. And it's just going to energy efficiency and all.
I can speak for you personally. Tim's not a deal killer. I sympathize with the fact that
There's some deal killers and then there's some legitimate great guys.
I've had home inspectors that literally
I thought about it.
that had
renaming my company to Deal Killers.
Yeah. Some home inspectors that don't understand that we're dealing with a very human, emotional process.
It is bad.
People have to be talked to. You have to reason through these things. When I see it now, that's a pretty.
I sold a house in Florida 6 times because of inspection.
And you see it. You see it.
And there's nothing in it. I'm like, I just redid the whole house. I could fix that.
You would say that you would recommend a licensed foundation contractor, obviously, but when you see a 45 like that, you know,
On a corner.
it could be a gutter drain, and that, or it could be a structural problem.
That's it. As you're looking, guys, if I could say this here, as you're out there looking at these, again, this is pretty much, you pretty much realize you're going to need somebody on that. But the judgment calls you might have to make for that moment are this little stair step crack that doesn't have any separation. There's no plane change, meaning one side's not heaved out over the other. Our grading's good. Looks like our gutter maintenance has been taken care of.
Downspout there on the corner of the house.
Yeah, so, definitely you're going to get into some judgment stuff like that. But just know at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with structural engineer, but you don't necessarily have to have that. Because it's not re-engineering anything. Nothing needs to be drawn or looked at to determine that that's going to need a professional repair. Inadequate clearances, gosh. As we get into these newer building components, and these have been around for a while, but this is fiber cement siding. I don't know of a manufacturer that requires less than an inch clearance between the bottom of that fiber cement siding and that roof sheet. And what will happen over time, if water is able to get to that, the fiber cement siding does not deteriorate. It crumbles. It will crumble. So that's exactly what will happen along the bottom there. Just a quick story. 2 weekends ago, I'm doing a home down the road in Nolensville, very nice subdivision, probably $600,000, $700,000 range. Home's 10 to 12 years old. Had 2 dormers on the front above a porch. Not a lick of flashing behind that fiber cement siding, and no clearance to the roof shingles. The only reason I was able to determine that is because it had crumbled, and now I could see the wall sheathing behind the fiber cement siding that was now deteriorated because of that. So that's what will happen if it's not done right. This home, again, right down the road in Nolensville, less than a year old. That's right, almost right at a year old. You could not see this except from the top, from that roof. You couldn't see it from the ground, from any 360 perspective of that home. So that's a problem too. That's all that was right there. Yes, sir. After 17 years, that one still amazes me. They were moving. Who doesn't? Anyway. But as you can see, don't assume anything. That's what that picture tells you. We can't get on every single roof. And the roofs that we can't get on, we use binoculars or some other method to inspect the roof surface and the shingles. Thank goodness I was able to come out a second floor window and then get up over that where I would not have thought that. You just couldn't see it from the ground. So if there's any part of the home you can't see, try to see it. Do you think that was intentional? No. I think that was just a big old miss. I really do. And somebody knew about it. I mean, somebody was up on that roof and probably said something. And this is a typical subdivision. You've got a supervisor overseeing different crews and this and that, and he's busy and overworked. And who knows, maybe he was the second or third super on that job. I mean, lots of things can go wrong, lots of reasons why something like that you'll find. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in and done what we call a new home warranty inspection. That home's right at the 10th, 11th month. They're wanting to make sure it's in good shape before it's all theirs. And we don't find a lick of insulation above the ceiling. That codes inspector, he's overworked. We're in Middle Tennessee. We're booming, guys. We're booming. He's overworked. He can't get to enough of them in a day. So instead of failing that, he writes down, hey, get this insulated. So the builder knew about it, but the ball gets dropped sometimes. And we'll get back to that ball later, by the way. But again, inadequate clearances. You need clearances, specific clearances around windows too. And again, I didn't get a picture of this up here, but that faux stone siding, as you look at homes with that, really start to pay attention to the interior, to any sign or symptom that you can see that might indicate that there's a moisture problem. Faux stone siding is going to retain a lot more moisture than fiber cement siding. And it has to have certain clearances, and it has to be installed properly. If it's not, you can get those moisture problems behind it. And the fix, I don't have that much money on most of those homes where they have them. So, that's with the roof, the way the national standards are written, 2 inches. That's a huge, huge clearance to a roof line, 2 inches. And you'll never see it. I've yet to see 2 inches. So a close one time, the rest of the time, almost always, right on top of
Someone would think that, if I saw that, I'd think it was wrong. I'd be like, what are you doing, man? How about if you put, like, the step flashing and then the metal over it?
Drunk.
I know, but.
You might be safe.
Because it's a lot better than leaving it and it crumbles. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed. All I can do as a home inspector is let them know, hey, these clearances aren't right. Don't know that you'll ever have a problem with it. I don't know that you won't. Don't know if this changes, if that might affect that. That's what you know.
The fact that you know that sold me on you, and I'm just going to tell you right now.
Which word?
It's the fact that you know that there's supposed to, because I know there's supposed to be more than, I heard it was like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, but I know there's supposed to be a clearance, and I think if you ask a lot of home inspectors, they might not be looking at that.
I'm sure there's a lot of, thank you, it's very kind of you, but I learned a long time ago, also check my ego at the door, because you can look at that wall right there 15 times, you're going to see something different at 16.
You want the world's best home inspection story? Let me throw it in 2 seconds.
Do it.
I had a home inspector one time. My listing, inspecting the house, to find out the house had radon. I get a call from my seller. Channel 5 News is at their door. The home inspector is self-promoting. And they're running a story on my listing having radon. I know all about that.
What was he self-promoting? The media?
No, they're a home inspection company.
Oh.
They said, let's do a story. My seller calls me, what the heck? Yeah, what the heck is going on here? Yeah.
I will do a story all day long.
That inspector, they sold the company and they're no longer in business.
That's regretful to hear, but you may encounter that sometimes.
So anyway, that's fine.
Also, you're going to, and I'll have pictures of this, wood deterioration to the trim around the windows, to the brick molding, that's the heavier trim around the windows, especially at door jambs. When that water comes down on a door, it sits there. It gets wicked up by the wood on the sides of the door. And when that happens, if there's a problem with the flashing or it's not flashed properly, it's going to roll across that threshold, and you're going to rot your subfloor and potentially your band joist or your perimeter joist. That's your outside joist that runs perpendicular to your door joist. So that's a huge issue and a huge problem that I find very commonly is deterioration to the subfloor where waters come across that door threshold. Moving on, because we don't have too many more of these to go. Again, didn't want to get too technical and didn't want to try to bore you all either.
No, it's all good. Yeah, good.
This is my favorite picture in the world. I don't know how many.
Flag bolted in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully they had a ledger board that was flag bolted in there, but somehow or another you know that something went wrong. Maybe they had it bolted just to wall sheathing. That's not good enough. That's not the answer. And that should also be flashed in behind there as well, guys. So if you can determine any of that, that's great to see. But I cannot tell you enough. Decks. Safety. There's a story behind that deck, and I can't remember, so I'm not going to bother telling you. But there were definitely some injured persons there. Definitely not good.
The one where they were having a party on it?
If I'm remembering correctly, the first time I ever saw the picture was years ago, so I think that's what it's from. This one, of course, very common. You're going to be able to see this, but definitely check for it. Deteriorated wood. Deteriorated wood on the railing, your rail boards, top and bottom, deteriorated wood on your step boards on that. Again, all huge safety concerns because you'll get out there on that deck You know, if you're going to invest in that home, jump around on it, because a lot of times you're going to use common sense. If it seems real wobbly or it's shaking a lot, there's probably something that needs improving, or it's just not right. And we can get really technical and get into the joist hangers for the joist, that if you don't use the right fasteners for that, they can have a chemical reaction and really take away from the structural integrity of that joist hanger and basically leave it worthless. So there's lots of stuff to look for with it. I don't want to get too technical, just keep it simple. Railings, of course, too. You know, press against that railing. If it's got any significant movement at all, guys, it's a safety hazard.
Have you seen an issue where it's one of the products when we push that deck over stuff, if you don't clean on it? I mean, I've had a couple decks where
They did a recall.
and it's like a sponge. Like 2 years later, you can just push your finger through the deck.
I'm starting to see that. I want to make sure we're talking about the same product. You're talking about that almost very granular texture stuff. Yep. I'm seeing that a lot out here.
That locks in the water and it rots the wood.
Yes.
That's why they did a recall on that. People are suing that company.
Yeah, and even if
suing everybody.
let's assume that their material that they're advertising for sale is, if that's not put on right, if that board's not drying, you're locking in moisture, and that's with anything, with paint, with anything that covers. But yeah, there could be a chemical thing going on with that, and the way that they treat the wood too. And that's what happens with those incorrect fasteners. All right, going to jump to the next one. There's grading. I can't say it enough. Gutters, grading. Grading is everything. You can see here,
in this.
you know it. Water, now this is an easy one. The water, you can say, is just going to roll down that. I don't know how well, you can't tell from that picture, it was mounded, where it can roll around the sides. The tough ones, and a lot of the homes where I'll see standing water in flat areas, sometimes that's just as bad as a hilly terrain, if not worse, because the water doesn't have anywhere to go. If it doesn't have the right slope, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to sit there. You'll find that a lot out in Rutherford County, too, which is an adjacent county here to Davidson County. It's a more flat area. But when you see that, the grading, it's got a slope, was it, 1/4 inch a foot for so many feet away. You just remember, you want to look and see, just like reading the brake on a putt, you want to make sure that water is going to go this way if the house is here, away from the foundation. That's what you're after. And if you have any cause for concern at all, look at the type of home you're looking at. Is there crawl space? Definitely. I'd go into that crawl space, take a look around, see if there's standing water, see if you can see indications of where water's been. Because water's going to leave its mark. It's going to leave effervescence. I hope I pronounced that properly. I never do. Which are just mineral deposits. But it's always going to leave a mark. The only way you're going to cover it up is if you paint over it and stain block it and so on and so forth. So watch your grading. Again, gutters, downspouts, in connection with the grading, all can have a huge impact on the home. Footings and foundations. I did have a picture of it. Good. Now, if I see this crack here, which is horizontal in a masonry block foundation, most commonly found in a basement home, that's one I might recommend a structural engineer on that. That's probably your most expensive crack to fix too. And guys, I look at those so close, even if that's easy, that's a no-brainer, but that's why I showed it, because you can have a wall that looks great. If you by chance carry a level in your truck or car, or even if you can find, a good straight edge, put it on that wall, see if it seesaws. Because if it seesaws, that wall's bowing.
Hydrostatic pressure.
Hydrostatic pressure is the soil, expansion of the soil due to moisture.
We just did one. Me and Caleb just did this. We redid the whole foundation, ripped out that wall, and redid it, and core filled it, and put the wrought iron, and did 3 coats and the BMX on the back. Lots of water in there.
That's the ultimate fix, just replace the wall. A lot of structural foundation companies are using carbon fiber materials to repair these cracks now. I've seen huge concrete anchors, basically holes dug in the ground and put in with steel rods connecting to them.
4 years they last, that's it. And then they come and sue you. Ask me how I know this one.
We have
the same thing. Did that crack? Yes, I remember that. Well, Brian did the first. Remember Brian was doing that.
Any linear feet footage, roughly 50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet. His question was, roughly what might the cost for the repair for something like that be?
That we have.
they won't, that we work on. About 10.
I was easily, guys, 10 to 20 on average, depending on, again.
I think we ended up somewhere around 18, but we did all 3 walls.
Oh, really?
Because the side wall and the back wall.
Yeah, we have a side wall we work on. We need to work on.
Yeah, this one got thrown in the wrong location, I apologize, but it's a stair-step crack in a brick wall. Well, imagine it looking just like this wall, a masonry block wall with that same stair-step pattern. Again, that's, you gotta know how many separation, you get back into that judgment area, you know, what's going on, you look at all your factors surrounding it, so you can make a good call. And if you don't know, you know, call, don't be afraid to call in that expert, because it's better to be safe than sorry.
You could core fill that too. That one, the step, you could.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was pointing to the gentleman behind you, I apologize.
That's a good question. So, before you back, what point do you, and what estimate point, right, should I say, do you go with?
That's your call. And you know, some of these guys who have been doing it a little longer might be able to answer that better than me. But it all comes down to you know, what your cost is. You know,
do you want to get sued?
The repair.
You'd go all the way. If you don't want to, if you don't want to get sued, go all the way. If you want to get sued, take a risk and put a Band-Aid on it. And hopefully they don't sue you. And honestly, and it was over 5.5 years, and they came back and did the story, and the victims were bad, and we're the bad guy. It's, buddy, when you make money, you're always the bad guy. Trust me.
Right now. And there are often, and that's why I refer back to qualified professionals. You'll see that in my report. If there's 30 defects, you'll see it 30 times. Because even though I know a lot about the repairs and how to repair, I keep my mouth shut. I'm there to let you know what's wrong with them.
Do you recommend, in this, do you recommend the board out there possible you just do it wrong?
As far as whether to do, what was your question?
I mean, any part of it. If you expect it.
Yeah, if it's a simple, didn't mean to interrupt you there, but if it's a simple, hey, we've got some deteriorated window trim here, right? And that's where communication is key. You know, if you're there with me, I'm able to communicate to you verbally. You know, hey, this is a problem. You know, we always recommend qualified professionals perform any repairs. But, you know, you don't have to. If you feel comfortable doing that repair yourself, and this home becomes yours, you know, feel free to do that. But that's your decision. You know, obviously with something like that, you know, that's not the most technical repair in the world, and it may be something that you feel comfortable doing.
I just ask because sometimes you come across somebody that may not know an area that you have a specialty in, so just particularly throwing it out there.
Well, as far as me doing the work?
No, just anybody.
Okay.
Anybody.
I rarely recommend a certain specific individual person. And if I do, I always preface it with, hey, you know, XYZ chimney sweep. I've heard they do a great job. I know the guy personally. I've heard a lot of good reviews on him, but there are other companies who are just as qualified. You know, and that's just to protect yourself, because you never know that one time, you know, hey, he's done a great job for you, maybe personally, everybody you've ever referred to, but there may be that one time where something changes for some reason. You never know. But that's why I rarely will recommend, and that's why real estate agents, you know, they rarely are going to recommend one home inspector. Even though they might know that Tim's going to do a great job for them, you know, they may want to give 3 names, you know, and say, hey, but make sure you call this one out. There's always ways to, you know, to make sure you're getting a good professional in front of them. But that's why I tell all my agents that refer me, you know, just give me on the phone. It's my job. All right, what was the next one? I can't wait to get to that trivia question. I'm going to touch on this too. Oh, slab. You know, slab foundations. Solid concrete slab. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to see anything but that edge. You're going to have some cracks like this that appear. That's not much of a big deal. Believe it or not, there's not real. In this picture, it looks a little worse than what it is, but there's not a lot of separation there. There's not one side higher than the other. As you're walking that home, especially if it has any kind of carpet that's flat like this, you know, with a low pile or linoleum or something like that, you know how level it is. You never have a level floor. It doesn't exist. But, you know, use your own common sense judgment. Again, look at that grading, look at the gutter system, see what you can determine about how do you think the maintenance on the home has been. Because that's going to determine everything. All right. You get your choice. Yes, ma'am.
water from grading.
Is that what you think the answer is? Close.
Drainage.
You don't even know what you're fighting for. Either a free radon test or a thermal camera inspection of a home. I mean, it can be your home, it can be one of your clients, if you're a realtor, I don't care. You get your pick there. But the question is, what is the most common and costly defect found with every home, potentially? It doesn't have to be that with it, but it is always going to be there.
How about water?
No.
No water and has to have.
It's kind of a trick question. I'll go ahead and answer.
Termites.
No.
No, I would have said the gutter drainage. She was close, but I would have said draining from the gutters improperly.
There's about 27 of them in this room.
Electrical outlets.
Man. I mean it. And what I mean by that is, I've talked about maintenance, see if you can just determine how a home's maintenance has been. And you're only going to tell us, is there rotted wood? Is it deteriorated wood? What's the gutter system like? Is it in good shape? If a home has been well taken care of, there's a good idea that you're going to have fewer defects than one that's not. Because maintenance neglect is a defect caused by man. Poor construction, leaving that siding off the side of that house. Guess whose fault that is? That's a guy's or a woman's. I mean, man, in general, by the way. I don't know who's in charge of that site, but that's a person's fault, and that is the most common and costly defect that you'll find. And we're not even getting into plumbing or electrical tonight, things like that. I'll have to come back.
Go online and you'll see about plumbing, electrical.
That deck defect, guys, that one that was split up like that, I promise you that was caused by a man because it was not built. So that's what I mean by that. The most common and costly one is either going to be builder, homeowner. Homeowners, hey, it's our home. We want to fix it ourselves a lot of times. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you get into some areas and you're really getting into some safety issues there. Things that have to be done properly, especially as these building materials change and become a lot more technical. We really have to be careful. And, so that's pretty much it. Yes, got some cards over here. Yeah, I've definitely got some business cards over here. I've got some little flyers too. Another thing that my company does is we have a 3-day guarantee. And that really gets into meaning something to a lot of realtors, because they'll call somebody a lot of times and they're trying to get 10 days on their on their contract for the inspection. Well, we guarantee we'll get to it within 3 days of you calling us. Now there are a few little asterisk marks. You gotta love those ways out. But obviously weekends don't count. It has to be Davidson or adjacent counties. And weekends and holidays don't count. But we'll get to it within 3 days.
How much do you charge for your home inspection?
As much as I possibly can. I try to price my services based off my experience and expertise.
You don't do it by the size of the home?
I do. But there's lots of different packages. But to answer your question, they typically are going to start right around $300 and go up from there. Also, I can't price myself out of work either. So we'd have to keep a lot of different factors in play. And I was joking about it.
No, that's okay.
But yes, very, very, very fairly priced. Too fairly priced if you really would get personal. But to answer your question, we're very.
And at what threshold point do you go up to the next level and charge it? And I'm asking for.
We group our square footage.
We charge a lot.
So say that again. You turn like just.
We turn a lot of houses.
Okay.
So what threshold do you go up to, like, say,
So that's our $295.
500?
We group our square 0 to 1,500 is $295, just for example. So next grouping would be like 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. Okay. Age factors too, if it's older than 50 years. Location, I don't really factor that in much. I will. If I have to drive forever, because I know you don't want to go there. You don't have to.
Well, if it's forever, I don't list it.
No, but you know what I mean.
He's not going to Tullahoma.
What?
I'd rather go to Tullahoma than parts of Sumner County, actually.
Do you go to McKinsey?
McKinsey, not much. Tullahoma, all of that.
I'm joking.
But yes, we're very competitively priced, and it's just my goal, guys, to make sure that I communicate properly. I am not what I would call a deal killer, but it's my job to communicate what you've got. My clients will know what's going on with that home when I'm finished, but I can communicate that in such a way most of the time that where it comes back to you if you're a realtor or so on and so forth, and you still have a fighting chance because I haven't shown you anything, Tim. That's the bottom line. Any other questions before I get out of here?
Can I get another course filmed with you?
If you'd like it anytime. Thank you all so very much.